So the term progress studies was coined by Tyler Cowen and Patrick Collison in that article, which ran in The Atlantic about 2 years ago, mid-2019. And it was really that article, incidentally, so thanks for bringing this up because I meant to mention this in the previous answer. It was really that article that galvanized the progress community because so many people reacted to that article. It got a lot of attention. People wrote a lot of blog posts in response, including me. And then we all sort of stopped and looked around at each other and said, oh, you're interested in this. Yeah, you're interested in this. There were lots of people interested in the progress concept and having that be the core of a community or a movement, but we just didn't know about each other because there wasn't a word for it. So progress studies, that term got out there and was this nucleus that we could all come together around. And so a community very quickly formed around it. And Tyler and Patrick continue to be some of the leaders of that community. Now, you ask, why haven't we been doing this? Well, in a sense, of course, we have, and there are plenty of academic disciplines that touch on aspects of this. Economic history is probably the closest one. Economics itself, of course, to some extent, history itself, the history and philosophy of science. It's not as if nobody ever thought to ask this question, nor did Tyler and Patrick mean to say that nobody has ever thought to ask this question. But what they were saying was, even though there are disciplines that touch on this question, it just deserves even more study than it's already getting. It just deserves a boost in the level of resources, not from zero to something, but from what we have now to even more. And they were suggesting, too, that it be interdisciplinary. So each of these disciplines has their own set of methods and focus. Historians are very focused on going and reading old documents, and economists are very focused these days on what kind of data can we collect and how can we build a model around it and prove some quantitative hypothesis, and so forth. So all these different fields have their methods, but what could be really useful is something that, again, combines the best from all of those fields to try to put together a bigger picture. And then one that is a little more on the prescriptive side rather than purely descriptive. So rather than just saying kind of what are the laws of economics or what are the patterns of history, saying how can we put these together and use them to make the future even better. And I think that that is kind of what is underrepresented and what we could use more of. There's an undercurrent to this too, which I'll just put this in my own words, and I don't want to put words in Tyler or Patrick's mouth, but I think a significant part of it is what I have stressed about the philosophy of progress, that in the middle of the 20th century, there was a shift in people's basic attitudes about progress and about whether it is possible and desirable and whether it's safe. And we really shifted towards an air of distrust, fear, and skepticism. If not 100%, then at least that became a large component. I would say the world today is at best very mixed and conflicted about progress. And that was not the case, I would say, or not nearly to the same extent in, for instance, the end of the 19th century. And so I think a good amount of academic attention has been put on the negative aspects of progress, and frankly, it's just imbalanced. The balance of attention on the negative aspects and playing that up versus attention to the positive aspects and looking at how we can get more of the good and minimize the bad. There just has not been enough of that in academia. And so I think a large part of what the progress studies movement is to just bring back, I'm really tempted to say optimism here, but I keep actually turning away from that term because it's not fundamentally about optimism, in my opinion, or rather that word can be interpreted in different ways. And so I want to use a word that is, I think, more clear and to the point. And that word is agency. I think a lot of what we've lost is a sense of our agency as individuals and as a civilization to make the future better and to improve our station and to tackle any problems that come up. So rather than be a complacent optimist and deny that any problems will come up or deny that any problems exist, I want to reassert our agency to solve those problems, both the problems that nature has imposed upon us and the problems that we create for ourselves. There are both types, and progress needs to deal with both. So it's that sense of our agency is fundamentally what I want to bring back.